a WikiVidi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Spectre, 2015 film. Spectre is a 2015 spy film, the 24th in the James Bond film series produced by Eon Productions for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Columbia Pictures. It is Daniel Craig's fourth performance as James Bond, and the second film in the series directed by Sam Mendes following Skyfall. It was written by John Logan, Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, and Jez Butterworth. The story sees Bond pitted against the global criminal organization Spectre and their leader Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Bond attempts to thwart Blofeld's plan to launch a global surveillance network, and discovers Spectre and Blofeld were behind the events of the previous three films. The film marks Spectre and Blofeld's first appearance in an Eon Productions film since 1971's Diamonds Are Forever. Several James Bond characters, including M, Q and Eve Moneypenny return, with new additions Léa Seydoux as Dr. Madeleine Swann, Dave Bautista as Mr. Hinks, Andrew Scott as Max Denby, and Monica Bellucci as Lucia Shara. Spectre was filmed from December 2014 to July 2015 in Austria, the United Kingdom, Italy, Morocco, and Mexico. The action scenes prioritized practical effects and stunts, while employing computer-generated imagery made by 5 different companies. Spectre was estimated to have cost around $245 million, making it the most expensive Bond film and one of the most expensive films ever made. Spectre was released on the 26th of October 2015 in the United Kingdom, 50 years after the release of Thunderball, 30 after A View to a Kill, and 20 after GoldenEye, on the night of the world premiere at the London Royal Albert Hall. It was followed by a worldwide release, including IMAX screenings. It was released in the United States on the 6th of November. Spectre received mixed to positive reviews. The theme song, Writings on the Wall, performed and co-written by Sam Smith, won an Academy Award and Golden Globe for Best Original Song. Spectre grossed over $880 million worldwide, making it the 6th highest grossing film of 2015, the second largest unadjusted total for the series after Skyfall. Plot. A posthumous message from the previous M leads Bond to carry out an unauthorized mission in Mexico City on the Day of the Dead, where he stops a terrorist bombing plot. Confronting the criminal's leader, Marco Shara, Bond grabs his ring, emblazoned with a stylized octopus, and kills him by kicking him out of his helicopter. Returning to London, Bond is suspended from field duty by the new M, who is in the midst of a power struggle with Max Denby, the head of a privately backed agency, the Joint Intelligence Service. See campaigns for Britain to form Nine Eyes, a global surveillance and intelligence initiative, and uses his influence to close down the OO Field Agents section, which he believes is outdated. Bond disobeys M's order and travels to Rome to attend Ciara's funeral. He seduces Ciara's widow, Lucia, who tells him Marco belonged to an organization of businessmen with criminal and terrorist connections. Bond uses Ciara's ring to infiltrate a meeting to select Ciara's replacement, where he identifies the leader, Franz Oberhauser. After hearing Oberhauser give the order for the Pale King to be assassinated, Bond is pursued across the city by the organization's assassin, Mr. Hinks. Moneypenny informs Bond that the Pale King is Mr. White, a former member of the organization's subsidiary Quantum who had fallen afoul of Oberhauser. Bond asks her to investigate Oberhauser, who was presumed dead years earlier. Bond locates White in Altaussee, Austria, where he learns that White is dying of thallium poisoning. He tells Bond to find and protect his daughter, Dr. Madeleine Swann, who will take him to L'American. This will take him to the next step. White commits suicide. Bond approaches Swann, and after rescuing her from Hinks, the two meet Q through Ciara's ring. Q forensically links Oberhauser to Bond's previous missions, identifying Le Chiffre, Dominic Green, and Raoul Silva as agents of the same organization, which Swann identifies as Spectre. Swann takes Bond to L'American, a hotel in Tangier, and they discover that White left evidence directing them to Oberhauser's base at a crater in the Sahara. Taking a train to a remote station, Bond and Swann encounter Hinks, who gets ejected from the train in the ensuing struggle, and are escorted to Oberhauser's base. Oberhauser reveals that Spectre has been funding the Joint Intelligence Service while staging terrorist attacks around the world, creating a need for the Nine Eyes program. In return, Sewell gives Spectre unlimited access to intelligence gathered by Nine Eyes, allowing them to anticipate and counteract investigations into their operations. Bond is tortured as Oberhauser discusses their shared history. After the younger Bond was orphaned, Oberhauser's father Hans became his temporary guardian. Believing that Bond supplanted his role as son, Oberhauser killed his father and staged his own death, adopting the name Ernst Stavro Blofeld. He went on to form Spectre and target Bond. With the use of his exploding wristwatch, Bond and Swann overpower him and escape, destroying the base in an explosion and leaving Blofeld to die. As the Moroccan facility was one node in a wider network, Bond and Swann return to London where they meet M, Bill Tanner, Q, and Moneypenny. With the intention of arresting C and stopping Nine Eyes from being activated, Swann and Bond are abducted separately, while the rest of the group proceed with the plan. After Q succeeds in preventing the Nine Eyes from going online, a struggle between M and C ends, with C falling to his death. Bond is taken to the ruins of the old MI6 building, scheduled for demolition after Raoul Silva's bombing. He encounters a now scarred Blofeld, who tells him that Bond must escape before explosives are detonated or die trying to save Swann. Bond finds Swann and they escape by boat as the building collapses. Bond shoots down Blofeld's helicopter, which crashes onto Westminster Bridge. As Blofeld crawls from the wreckage, Bond confronts him, but leaves him to be arrested by M, before leaving the bridge with Swann. Pre-production. In March 2013, Mendes said he would not return to direct the next film in the series, then known as Bond 24. He later recanted and announced that he would return, as he found the script and the plans for the long-term future of the franchise appealing. Nicholas Winding Refn would later reveal that he turned down an offer to direct the movie. In directing Skyfall and Spectre, Mendes became the first director to oversee 2 successive Bond films since John Glenn directed 5 consecutive films, ending with The Living Daylights and License to Kill in 1987 and 1989. Dennis Gassner returned as the film's production designer, while cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema took over from Roger Deakins. In July 2015, Mendes noted that the combined crew of Spectre numbered over 1,000, making it a larger production than Skyfall. Craig is listed as co-producer. He considered the credit a high point of his career, saying, "I'm just so proud of the fact that my name comes up somewhere else on the titles." The film's usage of the Spectre organization and its characters marked the end of long-standing litigation between Neon Productions and producer Kevin McClory, who sued James Bond creator Ian Fleming in 1961, claiming ownership over elements of the novel Thunderball, and in an out-of-court settlement 2 years later, was awarded the novel's film rights, including Spectre and its characters. McClory died in 2006, and in November 2013 Emchman the McClory estate formally settled the issue with Dan Jark LLC, sister company of Eon Productions, with Emchman acquiring the full copyright film rights to the concept of Spectre and all of the characters associated with it. With the acquisition of the film rights and the organization's reintroduction to the series continuity, the Spectre acronym was discarded and the organization reimagined as Spectre. When Sony Pictures Entertainment renegotiated with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer the deal to co-finance the Bond franchise in 2011, they were tasked to provide 25% of the negative cost of both Skyfall and Spectre, in exchange to receiving 25% of the profits plus distribution fees, for overseeing its worldwide rollout. When the film was announced in June 2013, the budget was not yet fixed, but was certain to be higher than the $210 million of Skyfall due to foreign locations and bigger payments for Mendes and Craig. In November 2014, Sony was targeted by hackers who released details of confidential emails between Sony executives regarding several high-profile film projects. Included within these were several memos relating to the production of Spectre, claiming that the film was over budget, detailing early drafts of the script written by John Logan, and expressing Sony's frustration with the project. Eon Productions later issued a statement confirming the leak of what they called an early version of the screenplay. Eon resisted Sony and MGM's arguments to cut on stunts and location work to reduce the budget, but managed to secure tax incentives and rebates, such as $14 million, from Mexico. Spectre has a final budget estimated between $250 million and $275 million. Writing. Spectre marked the return of many scriptwriters from the previous Bond films, such as Skyfall writer John Logan, Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, who had done work in 5 previous Bond films, and British playwright Jez Butterworth, who had previously made uncredited contributions to Skyfall. Butterworth was brought in to polish the script, being helped by Mendes and Craig. Butterworth considered that his changes involved adding what he would like to see as a teenager, and limited the scenes with Bond talking to men. As Bond shoots other men, he doesn't sit around chatting to them. So you put a line through that. With the acquisition of the rights to Spectre and its associated characters, Purvis and Wade revealed that the film would provide a minor retcon to the continuity of the previous films, with the Quantum Organization alluded to in Casino Royale and introduced in Quantum of Solace reimagined as a division within Spectre rather than an independent organization, which is implied to be no longer active by the film's events. Despite being an original story, Spectre draws on Ian Fleming's source material, most notably in the character of Franz Oberhauser, played by Christoph Waltz, and his father Hans. Hans Oberhauser is a background character in the short story, Octopussy, from the Octopussy and the Living Daylights collection, and is named in the film as having been a temporary legal guardian of a young Bond in 1983. As Sam Mendes searched for events in young Bond's life to follow the childhood discussed in Skyfall, he came across Hans Oberhauser, who becomes a father figure to Bond. From there Mendes conceived the idea of a natural child who had been pushed out, cuckoo in the nest, by Bond, which became Franz. Similarly, Charmin Bond is shown to have been his full-time guardian, observing the backstory established by Fleming. Casting. The main cast was revealed in December 2014 at the 007 stage at Pinewood Studios. Daniel Craig returned for his 4th appearance as James Bond, while Ralph Fiennes, Naomi Harris and Ben Whishaw reprised their roles as M, Eve Moneypenny and Q respectively, having been established in Skyfall. Rory Kinnear also reprised his role as Bill Tanner in his 3rd appearance in the series. Christoph Waltz was cast in the role of Franz Oberhauser, though he refused to comment on the nature of the part. It was later revealed with the film's release that he is Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Waltz got interested in the film for dealing with technology-assisted mass surveillance, speaking about relevant social issues in a way that few Bonds have done before, and denied rumors that the role was written specially for him. But added that, "When I came on board, the role grew, evolved, and mutated." Dave Bautista was cast as Mr. Hinks after producers sought an actor with a background in contact sports. The character only has one line in the entire film, "Shit." Sam Mendes thought the silent nature would drive Bautista away, but the lifelong Bond fan expressed interest in reviving the quiet henchman archetype of characters such as Jaws. Bautista's performance was inspired mostly by Oddjob from Goldfinger, and said not talking created an acting challenge, trying to find this way where I am actually going to have speak without speaking. After casting Benice Marlowe, a relative newcomer, as Severine in Skyfall, Mendes consciously sought out a more experienced actor for the role of Madeleine Swan, ultimately casting Lea Seydoux in the role. Monica Bellucci joined the cast as Lucia Shara, becoming, at the age of 50, the oldest actress to be cast as a Bond girl. In a separate interview with Danish website Euroman, Jesper Christensen revealed he would be reprising his role as Mr. White from Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. Christensen's character was reportedly killed off in a scene intended to be used as an epilogue to Quantum of Solace, before it was removed from the final cut of the film, enabling his return in Spectre. In addition to the principal cast, Alessandra Cremona was cast as Marco Shara, Stephanie Sigman was cast as Estrella, and Detlef Botha was cast as a villain, for scenes shot in Austria. In February 2015 over 1,500 extras were hired for the pre-title sequence set in Mexico, though they were duplicated in the film, giving the effect of around 10,000 extras. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?